The Edge of Tomorrow is an unfiltered journey into the remarkable minds of the people shaping the future of technology and its impact on humanity. This show isn't just about gadgets and trends, it's about the humanity behind the innovation. Together, we explore the big questions. How does technology reshape our values, communities, and sense of purpose? What lessons can leaders draw from these transformations to create a more inclusive, ethical, and impactful future? The Edge of Tomorrow is more than a show. It's a journey to discover what lies ahead and how we can all navigate the challenges and opportunities of a world driven by rapid innovation. Our goal is simple: to make life more meaningful, leadership more impactful, and the future brighter for everyone. In every episode, Dr. Martha sits down with some of the world's most visionary leaders, pioneers, and thinkers to uncover untold truths, unlearned lessons, and profound insights about how the technologies of today are redefining the world of tomorrow. Welcome to the Edge of Tomorrow with Dr. Martha Boeckenfeld.
Very, very warm welcome, Nova. I'm super excited to have you on my show, The Edge of Tomorrow, where I meet with some wonderful, mindful, beautiful people like you to talk about the future. And you are one of the people I know very well. We have collaborated together in the Marthaverse. And I would love to share some insights with you. And I know you have broken many barriers in tech, in fashion, but what's the one thing you would say people always get wrong about you?
Oh, that is a great question. What is the one thing people get wrong about me? Um, I've never had that question before. I would say if they meet me as a designer with my designer hat on, the last thing they think that I'm tinkering and building AI apps, or I am in the blockchain space and I can really nerd out on the technical side. Um, and I would say if I'm like at a tech conference and nerding out on tech, the last thing they're thinking about is I'm designing beautiful gowns that are going to, grace the runway. So I feel that, being a polymath, it's challenging, it's rewarding, because if you're a curious human and you love to create, it's incredible. You feel like you have superpowers. But in our world that's not built, I would say, to accommodate polymaths, you just kind of have to make your way. Then it's you're asked to wear one hat or another often in spaces. So I would say that's probably what they get wrong about me. They maybe just assume that I'm in one lane or another, other than saying, oh, she is in the sciences and she could also be in fashion. And I think that's been the journey of my life, going from psychology to fashion to tech to media. And I think that's what makes my journey so exciting as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think as well. You are clinical, also you come from a psychological background, and now getting into fashion. So people might say, "Wow, this sounds pretty crazy." And the next thing also, which you have done, it's not so long ago, you have been asked to send your fashion to the moon. And some
Yeah.
might say, what is this for? And what would that leave for other creators? So what is it, what we take away from that? Why is this important to have your art on the moon?
Oh, I love that question. There's so many reasons. I believe, like, personally, I never dreamed that I would be able to be in a space where my creativity is appreciated to the point where it is literally intergalactic. And I think, being someone that immigrated here from Jamaica, growing up in a very Caribbean home and being first generation to go to school here, to then pivoting to this very, creative, artistic world to achieve something that really is about preserving the culture of humanity. And the project is all about how do we share to anyone that finds this artifact in the future what the human culture is about, and what better way to do that than through art. and to be a part of this collective history that is etched, and not only in a microfiche that's sitting on the moon, but also as a Bitcoin ordinal, is very powerful, because it inspires others that literally, we hear the metaphor like shoot for the moon and, anything is possible. It's literally an example of anything is possible. Shoot for the moon, because you may land on the moon one day. So I think not only just for my own self and, continuously reminding myself of why I continue to do what I do, but also to inspire anyone that has a dream. It doesn't matter what it is. There's so many ways of getting there, and it's okay if it's layered with pivots. It's okay if it's layered with multiple, topics, industries, that it's possible. Dreams can come true.
That's beautiful. And you just also mentioned mindfulness and how important that is to you. I know myself, you also had just a beautiful retreat in Jamaica, where you come from,
Yes.
where you were born,
Yeah.
for selected people. But how do you bring together also mindfulness, luxury fashion? Because you might argue, you have on one hand, you have luxury, on the other hand, you have the mindfulness. And I can imagine that you sometimes also clash with very big industry leaders when you are on conferences where you have a luxury conference with luxury fashion. So how does it come together? This really, you can almost say, in different, totally two different directions. So how do you shape those interfaces?
I love that question, because I think it's important for us to like first understand what mindfulness is, because I think that when it's a word that's used a lot, and I don't feel that the majority of us truly understand the depth of its meaning. And I was fortunate enough to study mindfulness in graduate school and get certified in this area. And when you are in the present moment, and you are not only present, but you're there without judgment and holding compassion, that's being mindful. And so, how do we take that into fashion? How do we take that into well being? I mean, mindfulness is literally an underpinning of how you can protect your well being, how you can amplify your creativity when you're in that present space, when you're not judging yourself, you're not judging others, you're not questioning, you're allowing yourself compassion. Right. And grace and patience, and creating that space for those, what I call divine downloads, to come in. And when it comes to fashion, I've always been interested in the what I call the fine art of fashion. And to create art, you have to, your best art, you have to be in that present moment space. And you become this channel, you become this vessel for expressing story, expressing ideas, expressing emotion, expressing, it could be joy, it could be pain. You're expressing memories. And what are you expressing it in? You could choose your medium. And so artists or athletes, when you're in that present moment, you're checking into that flow state. Now, bringing that into fashion and being attracted to the fine art of fashion, which is couture, it's so mindful, because oftentimes you're selecting unique textiles and fabrications, you're architecting something that hasn't been done before, you're weaving in storytelling. There may be actual handwork, may it be in the draping or the sewing, or just the manipulating of the textiles into this garment. And so in the creative process, it is the most mindful aspect of designing and creating and bringing clothing to life in the form of story. And so, what if, fast forward, our future, as we're creating more consciously, becomes more mindfully created, more intentionally created? And how do you do that? And I do feel, in all of this noise, in this time of confusion, discord, disconnectedness that we feel around us, people are going to be seeking out mindfulness as a luxury. So, play on words, right? And so they're looking for creators and artists and inventors and founders that are being intentional and purposeful with their creations, with their products, with their services, because they're looking for something more soulful. And we're in the tech space, right? We love the tech. We're enthusiastic about the tech, but we also know this tool can also disconnect us as well. And so, if we're really intentional about being in this present moment with compassion, without judgment, and we weave that into the very things that we do and create and offer to others, then we create this more mindful future. And for me, that's fashion. So, that's metaphorically, but then also literally, the retreats for me is a way of recharging and refilling. And it's so, so important for us to do that on a regular basis. So, a daily basis, but then also have these bigger spaces where you can really allow yourself to reflect, relax, be re inspired, recharged, and to transform. And when you come out of these retreats, these mindfulness retreats that I intentionally create for other artists and founders, to come back with their well full. So what does that mean? You instantly manifest. You instantly find the solution to how do you finish this book? What is going to be the name of your next startup? How are you going to optimize your podcast? What is the topic or subject of your next painting? How are you going to raise the money for your next collection? These are things that you come back with because you allowed yourself that space to create, transform, be re-inspired, be recharged. So it's important to not only understand how mindfulness can be interwoven in your day-to-day from your career or your profession or what you're offering to the world, but then also how you can actively bring that into your life as a daily practice or a regular practice that's happening at least annually. If it's
Yeah.
not quarterly or monthly, but there are ways that you can do these little micro retreats or micro routines where you can bring mindfulness into your everyday.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's very, very important, in particular nowadays, where we have this overwhelming news every day, good and bad. And unfortunately, we also have not all peace in the world. So, bigger, bigger, bigger topic we have to deal with also mentally, emotionally. When you use mindfulness, and you touched upon this, and you use also, you are one of the experts in AI usage. Not only for creatives. I know that all your art, I see also you create a lot with Midjourney. We had the pleasure to see a vernissage. She protects always has a meaning. And can you explain to us how you create with AI also for creators, but beyond? How can we use AI with a meaning, and what are the values you have when creating? And maybe you can tell more for those who don't know. She protects this beautiful initiative, which we both launched in the Marthaverse, where people really get a glimpse of what you can do with AI and with new technology is not flat and not linear.
Yeah, so I going back to She Protects, which is a poem that was inspired by a trip I took to South Africa. And I had the opportunity, the wonderful opportunity to spend 2 days with the elephants. And I wanted to really bring this beautiful connection and information that I learn to the world. And what better way to do that than through fashion and art, of course. And being powered by my new friend, Midjourney, which is, generative AI. And so I learned about Midjourney back in, I guess it's been over 3 years now. And when I used it for the first time, I thought it was magic. I could just imagine when, people discovered fire for the first time, right? I was like, you could paint with your words. And I remember my first prompt was a poem I wrote, and it turned into this beautiful abstract. Um, it looked like a painting, a portrait painting. It was, the colors were stunning, and I was just stunned. And I said, wait a minute. As a designer that went through the training of the most slow fashion, which is couture, you take months, maybe a year or years to create a garment, to wait a minute, I could take this thought in my head and then see a visual of it and communicate that with someone else. And I could take the story or poem and turn it into something visual and more powerfully communicate that, to someone else. And so when I got back from Africa, I wanted to tell this story by personifying nature. And I created 12 personas of nature And so each of these personas were represented in feminine form. And these women that I brought forward were in these gorgeous couture pieces that aligned with the story they were telling around their persona and how they're protecting what's given to them as it relates to the earth and animals, and how we're one, how we are all one. And she who protects is she who protects those around her. You know, those of us that are mothers, I'm a mother, I know Martha, you're a mother, and to bring that nurturing to the world around us as well. Like, we are protectors. And if we know that, then we can, again, going back to intention, we can more consciously move in the world, knowing we have this added role of protecting. And if we personify nature, and if you are protecting your daughter, your sister, your mother, your cousin, like, what would you do? Your friend, your girlfriend, what would you do? And then what if we told this story by personifying nature so we can be more intentional how we move in the world? So I created 12 images that live on blockchain, and AKA NFTs, where individuals can collect and support this organization in South Africa that rescues baby elephants, raises them up, and then releases them back to the wild. So thanks to AI and Midjourney, I was able to bring that to life in a very powerful visual way.
Yeah, no, these are one, I think, of the creative ways in which go far beyond storytelling, because you create also at the same time an impact, very positive impact for endangered species in this part. You're also an author. You have written 2 books actually, but I think what would be very interesting, you are talking about the supernova framework, and you have already said you use Midjourney. I know you have a podcast where you also explain a lot of different AI tools, but if you would say it in just very punchy words for, so to create your supernova, you need these 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have the superpower.
Okay, so I can explain what I would say the supernova framework. Does that does that work? Okay. So what I would say as the supernova framework, I'll break it into 5 steps, or let's say 5 pillars, 5 core pillars. And the first one is curiosity. And why is that so important? And when you think about when you're a child, um, and you go out to the playground, or it's recess time is one of my favorite times of the day, you're just curious, who are you going to play with today? What game are you going to pretend, or what role are you going to be, or what are you going to build, or and or as we're growing and we're learning as children, we have this limitless curiosity about the world. Everything we look at with wonder, we're touching it, we're exploring, we're asking questions. And so if we could bring that mindset of curiosity to everything that we do and see everything as new, then we're able to really capture so much more than just, oh, it's just that. I love to people watch it. And when I'm in public spaces, I am looking at the world as a new place every single time. And I'm noticing things. And again, being present, paying attention, being mindful. And so if we move into every space with that, it's only going to allow us to see things we haven't seen, discover things we don't know that's there. And these become these become superpowers, right? If I noticed, for example, 5 years ago, that generative AI, because I was paying attention and I was looking and observing and exploring with curiosity, is going to revolutionize how we create, how we do work, in the future, at least 5 years from now, then I'm able to move in that space in one direction or another. And so this is what being curious allows you to do. Allows you to see new opportunities and to move into spaces and pathways and journeys with that open mind, exploring. So that's one, being curious. And number 2, though, is asking for clarity. And I do this daily, like being clear, because think about it. If you could take 5 roads to the supermarket, but you were clear on which one was the most straightforward path, you're going to be on that path, right? So asking for clarity and becoming clear each day as you move into that day is really powerful, because you're going to be able to zero in on what's important and what tasks you need to do that's going to create the best outcome for that day. So clarity is number 2. So curiosity, clarity. Number 3, I think, is so important and so powerful: courage. Because now you're curious, now you're exploring, you're clear this is what you want to explore, but you're terrified. And so now fear paralysis kicks in, right? So I'm going to just tell a story because I think it's so relevant that, when I was in grad school getting my PhD in psychology, I had that divine download on pursuing fashion as a means to helping others. I had no idea what that meant, but I was curious enough to take that next step and, decide to go to fashion design school. So that was curiosity. I wasn't clear on how that was going to happen, but I was clear about my next step. But if I was afraid, then I wouldn't have moved from such a clear path, such a predictable path, a prestigious path, a financially sustainable path, to the one of the most unpredictable paths out there. And I want to be a fashion designer. Like, how? And and so
I
I,
can
I
also imagine that you had a lot of resistance from some people
oh
around
yeah,
you,
and it wasn't
because
immediate.
they
I'm
might
not
have
gonna
said,
lie,
you
it
have now
wasn't.
this wonderful education, and why are you changing this? Yeah.
It was it was terrifying. It was like, wait a minute, this was something that I was planning for so long, that I was working on for so long. I was so clear about it, and now I'm here, and then I'm supposed to change course. Like, what? But it took curiosity, because I was clear with that intention. I didn't know the how. And oftentimes that's not up for us to figure out every single detail. It's up to us to be courageous enough to take the next step. So I think it's so important, because if I wasn't courageous enough to do that, I wouldn't have ended up in fashion. That wouldn't have led me to launching Rain magazine, which wouldn't have led me to emerging technology, blockchain in 2013, which wouldn't have led me to generative AI and all these beautiful tech tools that we've been exploring since then. And I wouldn't be able, now, would I have been able to create impact in some way? Yes. But my vision is to impact millions. And so this is a way for me to do that. But I needed to be curious, clear, and courageous. So that's core pillar number 3. Number 4 is collaboration. And I oftentimes refer to this as co-creation. We are social beings. We are not here to do this by ourselves. As artists and creatives, we need other things to inspire us, to allow us to create. So collaboration and co-creation, yes, it absolutely refers to other people, because when you bring two individuals, two or more together, beautiful things happen, right? Powerful things happen. But it also can mean objects. It can, I'm inspired by nature every single day. When I see a sunrise or a sunset, I'm in awe. A lightning storm without rain, I am in awe. A baby bird, I am in awe, right? And so it's not always people that you can collaborate and co-create with, but nature, your surroundings, music. If I put on a certain song that moves me in a certain direction, which will create a new piece, a new artwork, a new design, a new poem.
Yeah, we talked about frequency with Krista, and also the frequency school, and the frequency of healing, and the frequency of love. So there are
Yes.
lots of different frequencies which we might not notice, and when we take this supernova framework, you have 5 C's, I understand. This, I think, is not, or I believe is not only for creators as we know them in art and in fashion, but this is a framework to really trigger a mindset shift for any leader, for any executive. It's very important that you are courageous, that you collaborate, that you are curious, that you go the next step, you go the next level of innovation. And you already said what was probably one of the risks you took when moving your career from where you were very clearly shaped to go one way as a psychologist to a fashion artist in overall terms. So what was probably the biggest risk you took in your journey also for others to learn?
You know, yes, definitely switching from psychology to fashion was a huge risk. I've taken many, the biggest risk. Oof, I've taken so many risks along my journey. At one point, I opened a store in New York, and that was an incredible risk, but journey as well. I What was the biggest risk? You know what? I would say pausing on my fashion designs to explore technology full time and not losing sight of the end goal of that purpose that I had mentioned to you, that divine download that I was going to help people through my love of fashion, and not losing my way, because I feel sometimes it's so easy for us to take a journey and a path and just get caught up in that, and we do lose our way sometimes, or why we're here, or our purpose, and that feeling of being lost or not being clear on how to get to Oz um, can really impact you in a negative way. So moving into technology full time to really embrace and learn and explore through curiosity, and then on that journey finding clarity, and I think that was the big risk. But then with clarity, reconnecting to my purpose and bringing the tech into the fashion, bringing the well-being and the mindfulness into the fashion and the tech,
So all
everything worked
I would
out in
say
the
it,
end.
it developed during the journey probably also, as I see also from other entrepreneurs, is you have a goal where you want to go,
Right,
but it might not be completely defined, as you said, how you get there, and it's
right.
not in every detail. So just be open for that journey, learn every day. So, what is your daily routine to keep up with this learning? So, where others also can learn from and say, wow, this is something, it sounds reasonable to me, so I can also adapt it for my learning. In particular, as we know, we have every second a new AI tool. We don't know where to look, and then the next one is there. Also, you mentioned video making. Midjourney has now video. We have VO3, so it's like, wow, which tool do I use? What do I do? How do you keep updated, and how you are in the flow and make sure you are not under the flow, so to speak, and covered by
Yeah,
the waves and the ocean.
yeah. So I would say, which is the fifth pillar in the framework, is conscious action. And so that leads into, what do I do on a daily basis? Because I feel that, as I mentioned earlier, when we create consciously, intentionally with meaning, then everything flows from that, right? So the money flows, and the well-being flows, and the mindfulness flows. And so in the mornings, in terms of my routine, before I just jump out of bed, and I try not to wake up to an alarm. So I know for some people that's a challenge, but if you go to bed early enough, you'll allow your body to naturally wake up. And the reason why I do that is I don't abruptly get pulled out of my sleep. So I'm a dreamer. I have very active dreams, and I believe there's a lot of benefits in dreams. So that's one reason. But two, I'm able to naturally wake up, and I take at least 5 to 10 minutes to just do a body scan and check in. And I think that's so important, because our body is this physical expression of how we're feeling inside. And so when we take a moment to do this body scan and we see how we're feeling, and we start noticing, and I start from my toes and I work my way up. And then when I do that, I also do this gratitude rant. So not only am I doing the scan, like, how am I feeling? Let me check in. Does my back hurt? Because our body talks to us, and it tells us when we're carrying too heavy of a load. And sometimes it's subtly, or it'll be very abruptly. And so I think it's so important that we really pay attention to that. That's one. Two, the attitude of gratitude. When we start our mornings with gratitude, I mean, we were talking about frequency, and this is something I dedicate a whole chapter about frequency in Unleash Your Supernova, the book, where you're raising your frequency. So your external experiences match the frequency you're on. So think about a radio station, and you got the static, and then you have the clear FM, and then you have the AM. You want to tune your frequency to a physical representation of what you want to experience. So this gratitude rant raises your frequency. And then I really take time to reflect on, what did I just dream about? And what can I learn from that? What can I pull from that? And so then I get to be in tune with my subconscious thoughts as well. And so everything you use, you're tuning up and you're building as a muscle. So you're building that gratitude muscle, you're building the body awareness muscle, you're building, that conscious the reflective muscle. And then I do some mindful movement in the morning. So it's either going to be yoga, it's going to be some HIIT training, like get down, do those push-ups. It's going to be a run or a walk, depending on, again, how is my body feeling? And so being mindful, being intentional. And when you do those things, most people don't realize mindfulness is a hack for creativity. If you want to unleash your creativity, unleash your supernova, add in these few little hacks before you have a creative project, meeting, presentation. If you have to complete something, if you have to problem solve or ideate, just add in some of these things right before that. But if you can do it as a daily practice, you've just amplified your day. You literally just opened all these doors that you could walk through each and every day. And one other tip that I'll give that I think has been powerful as well, in the mornings, I will get really excited. What surprise? Now, I love surprises. I have a daughter that doesn't, but I love surprises. So if it puts a smile on your face, what surprise or what gift or what blessing, what miracle is going to come to me by the end of today? And I kid you not, when I do that every single time, I have a story to tell. So when you get up in the morning with these higher vibrations, positive feelings, with an anticipation of something really amazing happening to you that day. And it doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to win the lotto today. It could be,
No, no, no.
I
It's just
smiled at some,
could be an encounter, or it could be
yes,
some talk, or yeah. No, I can see that. I can
absolutely.
see that. No, I think
So
it's very important
those are a
that,
few hacks.
yeah, listen to your body and be prepared for the unknown, but listen very carefully what your body tells you, and also get engaged and take space for you. And I think a lot of executives, I know that from my own career, I have not always been as good in taking time for me and defending time for me. Having this little hour or even less, you have to fight for it. But it's worth the fight, because, as you say, it's a real hack for growth. It's a real hack for, also it's proven your brain works much better. You have higher energy. You avoid burnout, which we still have. Many people have that. So it's a lot of things we need to consider these days. Yeah, definitely. Um, if you think about your creation in an abstract form, and you have just beautiful described also your framework, when you go from, I have this idea, I want to do this, and then put this into practice, can you tell us a little bit more what your practical steps are, for also people to understand, how do I get from idea to action to execution, and make it as wonderful and supernova like you do it with obviously the framework? But what are the concrete steps to turn it really in manageable pieces for every leader in every industry?
Okay, that I would say read Unleash Your Supernova because that's literally the whole book. The whole book talks about from idea to execution. But I'm going to sum it up. I think it really starts with an analysis of who am I, right? And starting with the why. And I think this is so important because sometimes we end up in situations due to circumstance and we don't understand our why. And going back to the meaning, if you lead with meaning, everything else flows. And so if we understand our why, to why this business, why this job, why this home, why this city, why this meal that I'm eating, we're able to get the clarity that we need. So the curiosity, asking the why, then getting the clarity. So I think when you have the idea, and let's say I want to create an app. So Aura AI, for example, is this app that I developed because I wanted to help people using what I did in person, but powered by AI to scale that. So that was my why, going back to helping people through my love of fashion, right? And so then, well, where do I start? I'm not a technical builder. And so what I think we need to do from that idea is, again, going back to one of the core pillars, collaboration and co-creation. Who in your immediate circle can you just that what's that next step? Let me just ask the question. Let me just share this idea, because that person can say, oh, you want to do an app? Oh, I know this website. I know this person. And then again, it's so important to do that with a higher vibration, so you could attract team members and co-creators and collaborators that are vibrating at that higher frequency, so that doesn't turn into a dead end later on. So, understanding your why, looking at what are the special gifts you bring to the world. So, for me, when I was creating Aura, what is the special gift? I have a background in training in psychology. I have training in couture, so I'm looking for unique items. I can communicate with technologists, so I can have a more hands-on approach when I'm developing this product. I can nerd out and learn about the technology as well, so I can build it more efficiently. What are the things that you're bringing to the world? What are those gaps? And then you fill the gaps with team members, advisors. So I think that's super important, because if we're building in the silo and say, ta-da, here's this app, and you didn't get any feedback along the way or any guidance along the way, it may not be the product that the world is needing at that moment in time. So understanding your gifts, figuring out your why, understanding your unique gifts, filling in the gaps, and being okay with not doing everything. And then being, one of the things I think from idea to execution that happens a lot is burnout. So being mindful and adding in those daily hacks that I shared, building in the ability to do retreats. Sometimes it could be right in your backyard. It doesn't have to be like in Jamaica. If you want to come to Jamaica with me, hit me up. But you can take time out in your own house, in your own yard, where you're carving out isolated time that's just for reflection, inspiration, etc. And so building that in, and bringing tools in to do that. And then it's figuring out what are those tasks. Like I still have a notepad. I know we have our phones, we have our laptops, we have our digital notebooks, but there's something really unique when you're touching pen to paper. And so I will write out my thoughts without judgment, and I'll free flow with what are those next steps that are needed, and what is the most critical step I could take today to move the needle forward. Because sometimes we don't know all the steps, or if we do have all the steps, it's overwhelming. But if we break it down into, let's say, baby food bites, oh, okay, I want to run a marathon, but today I only have to run for 5 minutes. Done. Oh, I have to run a marathon. Oh, you want me to run 26 miles? Forget it. I'm not even
Yeah.
starting. You
No,
kidding
no,
me?
I totally agree. And I love that you also mentioned notebooks, because obviously you can get some beautiful notebooks. I even, I have a very, very big one. It's like, which I still use. And I love to put my notes and my thinking down. And it's proven by brain research that when you do the handwriting, as much as we love digital, our brain is very, very, very old, thousands of years, and still reacts very well to brain writing.
That's
You
right.
are called futurist, whatever that means, but you have predictions for the future. Is there a view on the future where you would say, I might not be in line with all the rest of the people, but I have a view which is quite unexpected, but I'm pretty sure that this will happen.
And what to do with that view? Or what would,
No,
in
just
terms
what
of
is there? What's your
my
view?
views?
Yeah, your view, just the one view where you think, wow, I'm 100% sure this will happen, but a lot of people just don't know about it, so don't think about it. And you really want people to understand that this is important. This will be in whatever time frame. As a futurist, this is where I think we are going, despite all what other people say. So ignore mainstream, ignore whatever you have heard, just what your heart tells you.
So what my heart tells me and what I'm excited about, and I know we hear a lot about tech predictions, so I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to go into something else. I believe that as a collective, we are moving into a more conscious future, a more mindful future. We're going to be seeking out more activities, more opportunities, more spaces, and more people that can take us to that more conscious space, that higher vibrational space. We're going to be exploring our own personal superpowers, things that have been ignored for years that we intuitively know, things that have been on the bleeding edge of science. We're going to be exploring and unlocking. And we're going to be spending more time doing these things, amplifying our superhuman gifts, because technology is going to be automating so many other things around us. So there's definitely going to be some bumps in the road along that way. But I am super hopeful that we're going to be spending more of our days less on the hamster wheel and more exploring, amplifying, and activating these hidden gifts that we all have. And that's what I'm excited for. More like minded individuals coming together to co create, collaborate in a conscious way. More entrepreneurs intentionally creating for impact. More creators driving positive change with technology. These are the things that I feel is happening. We could talk about AGI, and robots, and are we going to Mars? Hotel on Mars. That's a big thing. I I want to talk about where are we going as a collective, as humans, that really inspires us and doesn't drive fear, because we create the fear response and emotion, which means that we can create the opposite. And so that's what I'm excited about, a more conscious, more mindful future, but the people, the places, the experiences that are going to be coming up along the way for allowing us to get there and being a part of that shift.
I would love to be a part of that future, and I'm sure I will be. I strongly believe in that future where we all have a place, and the place is not that we are doing what robots can do. The place will be as a collective, as you say, developing and nurturing each other and creating beautiful innovations so that we create abundance for all. My final call for you, so to speak, is you as a creative, and I know you have also younger daughters. If you turn back and think, wow, I have done so many things, and I know was a bumpy road, and maybe I would do things quite differently. Where would you start? And I'm sure you give that advice also to your daughters. Where would you start today? What would you do different and say, wow, with my experience, I would tell you, forget any degree, start with AI? Or what would you do? How would you phrase this?
Oh, okay. So, I would say, from a general standpoint, I would say for me, I could look back on my journey and say there are a lot of times where I self sabotaged due to doubt, due to fear. And sometimes fear of success is just as powerful as fear of failure. But if you can throw that out the door and just say, I'm on a journey, this is a game. If we go back to that little child inside of us and we become more playful and we stay in the moment, and this conversation is a meditation that we're having, we're both very present, we're listening, we're tuning in, we're sharing, energetically with each other. That's what children do. And
Yeah.
so I would say to let go of the doubt, let go of the fear, give yourself grace, don't judge yourself so much. Really honor the gifts that you have without question. I overthink sometimes, and then that's when the doubt comes in. So, like, you know what? Just take that step forward. I think that's so important. So that's what I would say to my daughter from a technology standpoint. Take the time to understand the technology. You don't always have to use it or build with it or co create with it, but at least understand it. So you have a voice in shaping the future. I think it's so powerful that more creatives and more conscious creatives participate in building this new digital city, this new digital era that we're stepping into. And I do believe creativity and imagination is our key to, I'm not going to say surviving, thriving in this new future. So honor that creative soul that you have, use your imagination. That's how we stay ahead. That's how we thrive. That's how we co create.
Wonderful. So, really, as we started the beginning, AI can't imagine the future, but you can. So, make your choices. Don't be as harsh on yourself. And think about the beautiful future we can really all, as creatives, no matter if you're an artist or not, get the child out in your little inner side and feel the frequencies. Uh, this is the biggest advice, obviously, we can give to our listeners today. Thanks a
Absolutely.
lot, Nova. I would love to talk to you for the whole day and be with you in Jamaica at some point in time. I know that a lot of people got triggering now. Now every morning I will think about Jamaica, and I think that already triggers so many colors, so many feelings, so much positive uh, spirit that we certainly will go for it.
Yes.
I would now invite also our LinkedIn joiners to ask questions if you want to. I think we have covered so much for the short time that it's probably more than we can download right now. And Nova and I, we will work on, maybe I think we should work on an article about your supernova framework, because that's super helpful and we get the superpower so that people really understand it, was practical examples like you highlighted. This is a fantastic framework. So any questions from our dear friends on LinkedIn? I see you are very active. So thanks a lot for being with us today. And as you say, is so many powerful takeaways from Nova. She has given us so much insight into her work. Your pure energy, someone is saying. I can only reflect on that. I felt that when we were together in the Marthaverse. It's just is a unique feeling. And I love also how you write about colors and how people can express themselves with colors and what colors mean to people as well. So it's not only the fashion as the colors and the impact you create. Thanks a lot, Joyce, for all the compliments, and thanks a lot for everyone who took the time. I'm sure you are, or I think you are mainly in time zones where it's very hot right now, as in Europe. I can see. Wow, watching from Nigeria, you are definitely. We are all in the heat. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking the time, and thanks Nova for being such a wonderful guest and starting the journey with me. Thank you.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Martha, for hosting me.
Thank you.